Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today we're reacting to Righteous Anger versus Forgiveness. Oh boy. Yudhishthira and Draupadi quarrel in the Mahabharata. My gosh. Hope you're enjoying my mispronunciation of everything here. But anyways, this is Swami Tadatmanada's video. He did not have one with Vivekananda, so because he's next in line in this video, I found something that looks interesting. Righteous anger versus forgiveness. Let's go ahead and give it a shot.
Today, when many people seem so polarized and divisive, the value of forgiveness is more important than ever. This virtue is considered essential for emotional maturity and for spiritual growth. Properly understood, to forgive is not to excuse or pardon those who have committed harmful deeds. Forgiveness is for your sake. It's meant to free you from anger, resentment, and other painful emotions that can linger long after you've been hurt. When you're freed from the crippling burden of those negative emotions, not only will your life be better, but you'll have a much more positive influence on the lives of others. People often ask, should you forgive those who continue to hurt you, those who persist in harmful behavior? You might have found yourself stuck in such a situation where you're subjected again and again to some kind of physical, emotional, or financial harm. No one wants to be hurt like that. At the conclusion of this presentation, you'll find a good answer to that difficult question. Those on the path of spiritual growth want more than to merely avoid getting hurt. They want to be free from anger, sadness, and resentment because such emotions are huge obstacles to spiritual growth. As they say, you can't strive for the heavens when you're stuck wallowing in the world. A solution to this problem is found in a remarkable episode from the great epic Mahabharata. In its third book, the Vanaparva, Prince Yudhishthira gets into a huge argument with his wife, Draupadi. They argue about whether or not you should forgive someone who continues to hurt you. Let me set the context first, and then share with you some passages I've translated from the original Sanskrit text. For decades, two clans viciously fought over who would rule a vast kingdom with its capital in Hastinapura. Yudhishthira was the eldest of the Pandava clan, and he was supposed to ascend to the throne. But the eldest of the Kaurava clan, Duryodhana, desperately wanted to become the next king. Duryodhana's uncle arranged a rigged dice game in which Yudhishthira was deviously cheated out of the kingdom. He was sent into exile for 12 years, along with his 4 brothers and his wife, Draupadi. They were evicted from their royal quarters and banished to the forest, where they dwelled in a crude hut, dressing in deerskins and living on whatever fruit, seeds, and roots they could find. In the meanwhile, Duryodhana moved into the palace and enjoyed a life of luxury. In the midst of this terrible misfortune, Yudhishthira remained surprisingly calm. Draupadi, on the other hand, was deeply troubled. After suffering in the forest for many months, she broke down and bitterly complained to Yudhishthira. That cruel, evil-minded Duryodhana banished us to the forest, and now while we suffer great hardships, he shamelessly rejoices in the palace. You used to sit on a jewel-studded throne, but now you sit on the ground. You used to dress in costly silks and sandal paste, but now you wear deerskins, and you're soiled with dirt.
Sandal paste? What is the sandal paste? Hold on, let me rewind that real quick.
But now you...
Yeah, you used to dress in costly silk and sandal paste. Sandal paste? When I think of sandal, I think of a sandal, like a flip-flop, you know. But paste? What is a sandal paste? Let me
wear
know.
deerskins, and you're soiled with dirt. Why don't you feel angry when you see your brothers suffering here in the forest? Why don't you get angry? And when you see me, your wife, in this wretched condition, why don't you get angry? A Kshatriya warrior like you is supposed to be bold. This is not the time for forgiveness. It's the time to boldly strike your enemies. After being unfairly exiled from the kingdom, Draupadi seems to want revenge. She wants her husband to rise up in anger and put an end to this injustice, so she can return to the palace and enjoy its comforts. Draupadi can't understand how Yudhishthira can remain so peaceful in the midst of this tragedy. But in the first book of the Mahabharata, Yudhishthira's biological father was revealed to be the god Yama, who's also known as Dharmaraja, the king of Dharma, righteousness. From his father, Yudhishthira inherited an unshakable commitment to follow Dharma at all times. The main principle of Dharma is ahimsa, non-injury, the path of least harm. Because of that, Yudhishthira considered any expression of anger to be adharmic, because anger leads to harm. According to Yudhishthira, even so-called righteous anger ultimately causes more harm than good. He explains all this to Draupadi in the next chapter. After Draupadi urged her husband to rise up in anger and put an end to their unjust banishment, Yudhishthira remained unmoved, firmly committed to follow Dharma. He told her, "One who overcomes anger thrives, but one who fails to overcome anger gets destroyed. Anger is the root cause of destruction. An angry person cannot discern what should or shouldn't be said or done. An angry person can kill the innocent and praise vile murderers. That's why the wise control their anger. Because I understand this so clearly, anger never arises in me." Yudhishthira knows very well that anger can rob you of your self-control.
And this is very extremely difficult to do. I mean, we are so, in a sense, I guess you could say, controlled by our emotions. We obviously always want happiness or contentment, but anything that's other than that, we want nothing to do with. And in some cases, we'll do extreme things to not be in anything other than happiness or contentment. Mostly happiness, though, I'm pretty sure, for most people, or some people.
Anger can overpower your judgment, leading you to make unwise decisions and take wrong actions. When you act out of anger, you can end up making a bad situation much worse. Your efforts will be much more effective if they're born of careful reasoning rather than blind rage. Later, Yudhishthira says that a wise person who controls his anger has immense tejas, brilliance, energy, and power. Seeing his tejas, others will naturally respect him and grant him authority. The ignorant, on the other hand, often confuse the energy of tejas with the might of anger. Instead of commanding authority and respect, they use anger to intimidate others into submission. That strategy often has terrible consequences. At the end of the chapter, Yudhishthira concludes, "Those who are righteous always avoid anger. If the oppressed were to oppress others, if the hurt were to hurt others, if husbands were to beat their wives and wives were to beat their husbands, then there would be no peace in the world, and all would perish."
Oh, man. That seems to be what is going on in America. I don't know how much of a degree, but it is going on here, where you're starting to see reverse racism and all this other stuff where, you know, they're saying the white people that live here needs to do certain things because of things of the past. So while this talks about it in a little bit different way, where it's people of current times punishing people of current times, what's going on in America is the fact that things of the past must be made up for the things of the present. So, or let me try to say that a little bit differently. So basically, the ancestors of certain people needs to, because of the ancestors of certain people, the people of the present needs to pay, even though the people of the present has nothing to do with it. And then what do you end up getting? The people of the present saying, "Why do I need to do this? I did not do anything to these people. Now I'm feeling this hateful, this anger, this things that I had nothing to do with. I'm not having to pay for it, and now you're putting that oppression on me. Now I am the oppressed. Now the people who had nothing to do with it have legitimate reasons that they are oppressed, because these other people are oppressing them because of something that maybe their great-great-grandfathers or their ancient heritage of their people did something that they had nothing to do with." So it's just going to be a cycle of repeats of things done in the past coming back to the future to haunt you. And this, what he just said here, kind of reminds me of that, of what's going on. It's the fact that, you know, we're, instead of trying to fix things, we're just punishing each other for things in the past that people had nothing to do with the people in the future or in the present.
But a wise man, a man of strength and dignity, can control his anger, even when he is insulted, wronged, or abused. Duryodhana can't tolerate such things, but I can. So I will follow this path, the path of forgiveness and compassion, the path of eternal Dharma. According to the Mahabharata, Dharma is not based on scriptural rules that enjoin or prohibit certain deeds, nor is Dharma based on your conscience, your inborn sense of right and wrong. In several places, the Mahabharata defines Dharma with the words Ahimsa Paramo Dharmaha. The greatest Dharma is to avoid causing harm. Elsewhere in the epic, the greatest Dharma is, instead, said to be compassion. Ahimsa and compassion are like two sides of a coin. They're expressions of the same virtue. But here, Yudhishthira says that Dharma is forgiveness and compassion. Why? Because forgiveness is the key to avoiding anger. Anger that leads to harm. Anger that's an obstacle to compassion.
One thing I just noticed there, the palm of their hands are red. I don't know if that's meant to be that way, if that's a sign for something. Yeah, even in the picture, actually. Yeah. I don't know if that's just like, I don't know, I won't say accidental. It's clearly intentional, but does it have a meaning?
At the very beginning of the next chapter, Draupadi stridently vents her anger at Yudhishthira. She shouts, "Nothing is more dear to you than Dharma. You worked for Dharma. You lived for Dharma. And one who follows Dharma is supposed to be protected by Dharma. But Dharma didn't protect you. You fell prey to gambling and were cheated out of everything. Your kingdom, your wealth, your brothers, and even me. How could you do that to us?" Draupadi was deeply hurt. Someone who feels such hurt is likely to lash out in anger and hurt others. Here, Draupadi ridicules Yudhishthira's lifelong commitment to Dharma, calling it useless. She blames him for being exiled from the kingdom and for their miserable lives in the forest. Then, quite unexpectedly, Draupadi shifts the target of her blame. She now accuses Ishvara, God, of being ultimately responsible for their terrible misfortune. She boldly says, "Whatever pain or pleasure we get in life is determined by God alone. No one has control over happiness and suffering. We're all like little wooden puppets in the hands of God. We have to follow his commands like a bull led by a rope through its nose. God plays with us like toys, without caring for us like a mother or father would. Why did God give the kingdom to Duryodhana? How could he favor someone who's so evil and cruel? God seems to be as fickle as anyone else in the world." Not only does Draupadi feel deeply hurt, but she also feels victimized. After all, she did nothing to bring about this terrible misfortune. Like so many people, she struggles with the question, why me? I'm a good person, so why did this happen to me? She wants to find the cause for her suffering, and she looks for someone to blame.
That's not good. It's fine to look for the cause of the suffering, I will say for sure. That way you can fix what's causing it. But look, like I was gonna say, like it's again not a bad idea. It's like, okay, what's causing the suffering? Then to fix it. But then to look for someone to blame. This goes back to victimhood mentality where, they kind of feel like it's out of their control, it's out of their hands, and there's nothing they can do. So the only thing they can do is just point and blame and say, like, I can't do anything about this. It's because of this person that I can. It's because of this person right here. Or hold on, right there, that I can't do anything. I mean, I try everything in my power. Nothing's all useless. This is the person that's preventing me from doing all of this, Like, no, I mean, it's so strange to hear that kind of thing where they literally just don't want to do anything. They just don't care, or they want the easy way. Again, I think it's also that where it's like, what's the easiest way for me to gain power? What's the easiest way for me to get whatever I want? Blaming and being a victim, because everyone wants to care for a victim, but it gets kind of dangerous whenever, especially when you teach kids or young people this, that you're a victim, and you start putting this victimhood mentality in their minds, and now they're all of a sudden, it's like, I can't do anything because people are like, why did I fail at school? Well, it's not my fault, it's other people's fault. They're the ones preventing me from failing. It's not because I didn't study, it's because they don't like me, and they're picking on me. It's really bad to have that victimhood mentality. Instead of trying to be responsible, like, okay, I didn't study, that's the reason why I failed. I need to study so I can do better. Or it's like, I didn't study hard enough, or I'm having trouble remembering how to remember this stuff because, I try studying and I'm putting 6 hours a night and it's not working. And I need to find a different technique to remember these things, so that it prevents them from seeking help to improve their abilities. Instead, they just say, it's not my fault, it's their fault. I don't have a problem studying. I studied about 5 seconds last night. It was good enough for, the big test.
First, she blames her husband. But since Yudhishthira is righteous and saintly, she ends up shifting the blame to God. And she sarcastically suggests that her husband is merely a puppet in God's hands. Like Draupadi, many people want to blame someone or something for their suffering. Unfortunately, as long as they continue to blame others, as long as they hold on to their anger and resentment, they will never find forgiveness in their hearts. And forgiveness is the key to emotional healing, the key to freeing yourself from feeling hurt or victimized. But how can you possibly forgive those who have deliberately hurt you and might even continue to hurt you? In such situations, forgiveness depends on understanding and acceptance, a complete, all-embracing acceptance that arises when you thoroughly understand the nature of your personal karma. In the next chapter, Yudhishthira tells Draupadi how to understand her karma and how to gracefully accept the difficulties of their 12-year exile.
12 years is a long time.
When Draupadi blamed Ishvara, God, for all her troubles, Yudhishthira saw how deeply disturbed she was. And he said, "O Draupadi, please understand who Ishvara truly is. Don't blame him for your suffering." Yudhishthira explained to Draupadi that Ishvara is the karma phala data, the almighty omniscient being who gives you the results of your own deeds according to the laws of karma. For all the good deeds you committed, either earlier in this life or in prior lives, Ishvara gives you desirable results, results that make you happy.
Okay.
And likewise, for all your harmful deeds, Ishvara gives you undesirable results, results that make you suffer. In this way, Ishvara is not directly and solely responsible for your happiness or suffering. Ishvara only gives you, in accordance with the laws of karma, the results of deeds that you yourself committed in the past. It's true that you have no choice over the so-called good and bad karmas that will affect you in this lifetime, nor can you know those karmas in advance. The ways of karma are unfathomable, as Sri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Yet, the doctrine of karma can help you understand how and why unforeseen events happen in your life. Events that sometimes bring happiness and sometimes suffering. Let me add something here. We all make mistakes. None of us is perfect. At one time or another, we have all caused harm to others, both in this life and in our prior lives. According to the doctrine of karma, because of harmful deeds we committed in past lives, we are all subject to being hurt by others in this life, no matter how saintly we might be. With this insight, you can answer the question, why me? Due to past karma, you will certainly undergo undeserved suffering in this life. Every single person is subject to such suffering. So, instead of asking, why me, you could instead ask, why not me? Am I so special that I should somehow be exempt from the laws of karma and never undergo undeserved suffering like everyone else does?
Would it be undeserved at that point if it's in fact your past karmas that are causing this? Would it be deserved then?
By fully understanding the doctrine of karma, you can learn how to gracefully accept all the unexpected difficulties and tragedies that arise in your life. You can learn what Yudhishthira understood so well, that due to karma, suffering is inevitable.
I get it
so,
now.
there's no one to blame and no reason for anger or resentment. With this wisdom, you can be as calm and peaceful as Yudhishthira, even in the midst of a disaster. Here, Yudhishthira didn't bother to give Draupadi a detailed explanation of the doctrine of karma. Why not? Because she already understood it. In the next chapter, Draupadi describes that, as a little girl, a great scholar visited her home and taught the doctrine of karma to her father. While sitting in her father's lap, she listened carefully and learned it well. But then, if Draupadi already understood the doctrine of karma, then why did she get so angry about being evicted from the palace and banished to the forest? Why did she bitterly blame Duryodhana, Yudhishthira, and even Ishvara for her suffering?
Is it because she believes that, well, I don't know what exactly has been taught in terms of the karma when that person visited, but I'm wondering if she interpreted it in such a way that karma only starts at the beginning of her life, and whatever you accumulated in this life is the karma that's being presented to you. What you've done in the past will affect you in the future. So she's probably going to say, well, I've never done anything bad in this life, so I should not deserve anything bad in this life, because karma, and in her mind, karma only affects you in this life.
Well, Draupadi later admitted to her husband, I didn't mean to blame God. How could I condemn the great Lord of all beings? The fact is, I was overcome by grief, and that made me jabber senselessly. Apparently, Draupadi's intellectual grasp of the doctrine of karma wasn't able to soothe her troubled emotions. This is an excellent example of a so-called gap between your head and heart,
What?
a break in the connection between your intellect and emotions. Even when you fully accept the fact that you've suffered due to karma, at first you might still feel angry and blame others for your misery, because it takes time for the wisdom in your mind to sink down, so to speak, into your heart. Fortunately, anger and resentment will gradually fade away as your understanding of karma grows deeper and helps heal the hurt that lingers in your heart. Forgiveness is a process. Initially, you might be filled with anger, hurt, and resentment. Then you can reflect on how your suffering is a result of harmful deeds you committed in prior lives, and the fact that, like everyone else, you are subject to undeserved suffering in this life.
I'm wondering if how would you let me know what you guys think about this. Would it be better to say that these are suffering that you deserve as opposed to undeserved suffering? Because considering that all the karma in your past is all you're doing and no one else's, and and all those are just coming back and paying you now of the things that you're doing. So if it's a bad thing, well, you deserve it because it is your karma that's being paid to you. If it's a good thing, well, you deserve that as well because it is something that your past karma is paying to you now. So wouldn't it be saying like things that you deserve, and if you think about it, it's like, I deserve this, you can accept it much more easily than saying something, I don't deserve this. Because if you don't deserve it, you shouldn't get it. But if you say you deserve it, you can accept it much easier. However, that doesn't mean that you have to let it go completely bad. Like he said in another video about there's going to be good things and bad things that happens to you throughout your life. Your good karma and bad karma. And when bad karma comes, like something that says, oh, you want to buy something now, but you have to pay the bill. It's like, well, now that's bad karma. Let's just say that. Something very simple. He's like, well, I can't buy it now. I'll have to wait and save up until 1 year from now, and I'll buy it then. So that's the bad karma come into play where you can't get it right now, but it just delays your whatever that you want to get. Whatever else you want to interpret that way. So yeah.
Because of the gap between your head and heart, it will take time for that understanding to sink in. But gradually, that wisdom will penetrate your heart and help heal your emotional wounds, allowing you to let go of any remaining anger, hurt, or resentment. Then you can remain as calm and peaceful as Yudhishthira. Before we conclude, let's return to the question raised at the beginning of this presentation. Should you forgive those who continue to hurt you? The answer, of course, is yes. But that certainly doesn't mean that you should allow them to continue hurting you. You have a responsibility to protect yourself from harm. That, too, is dharma. In the Mahabharata, even though Yudhishthira felt no anger or resentment towards Duryodhana, he later assembled a huge army and defeated the Kauravas in war. That war resulted in Duryodhana's death and in Yudhishthira and Draupadi's return to the palace.
Oh, I kind of want to. I'm interested in that story now. I'm sure there's a lot of interesting stories in Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads. Well, I don't know. Actually, I don't know if the Upanishads have the stories or not. I know the Bhagavad Gita has quite a bit of stories, especially was it Arjuna and Krishna, I believe. That particular story apparently is quite the most one of the most popular ones. I don't know if it is. I think it might be second to something else, but I'm not sure. So interesting. Yeah, it's obviously it's going to be very easy to, very difficult. Let me say it that way. Very difficult to forgive. I mean, especially if they've been hurting you for so long and intentionally. Yeah, it's not going to be very easy. And there's a saying that time will heal all wounds, but I guess I wonder if it can be said to. If they can earn their forgiveness. So for example, you're not going to necessarily punish them for the things they've done, but they can earn the forgiveness so that you can forgive them. I wonder, or do you have to just forgive them plain blankness without them earning it? I have a feeling, I think in this story here, that it is pure forgiveness without being earned. I guess in maybe my book, perhaps you don't have to act out your anger, but they have to earn forgiveness. So essentially, you can be angry at them, but you don't act it out. You are still calm as much as you can be, and think things through like he did. Although I don't know the story completely, but just essentially he's not letting his anger cloud his judgment and knowing when the right time to strike. It seems clearly that he understood that he can't defeat him, and him going after him at this moment would be the worst case, and he'd end up probably getting killed. So he remained calm and thought of a plan on how to regain his throne. So like that. So basically, understand that you're angry. Don't let it cloud your judgment. I guess this is technically, I guess this is my path, my way of life. Try not to lash out in anger or act on your anger, but the person must earn forgiveness. You could say, I can treat you as a stranger, even though I know you. And what that means is that, you don't trust a stranger, obviously. They, much like any stranger, they must earn your trust, they must earn your respect, they must earn a lot of things in your life. You don't have to, that doesn't mean you treat them terribly. No, you don't treat strangers terribly. You just treat them like, you don't trust them, obviously, and you get to know them, so that you get to build up that trust, you get to build up that knowledge about them. But yeah, that's probably my way of life on that. Let me know what you think about that. Is that something that seems reasonable, where they may have hurt you, and it's like, well, I can't trust you, so I will not put you in positions of power. I won't lash out in my anger at you, but you'll have to earn that trust back, and basically that forgiveness, in a sense, because I think forgiveness and trust kind of comes hand in hand. The more that you forgive them, the more that you can kind of trust them, I guess. Without forgiveness, there's no trust, I suppose. Anyways, let me know in the comments below. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.